Howdy, folks. This video is from a show I recently did on Cameron Bertuzzi's channel, Capturing Christianity. If you like it, do all the YouTube things to let YouTube know to show the video to others. Be sure to like, comment, and share the video. And I am trying to grow my channel, so be sure and subscribe and hit the bell notification. Don't forget to check out Capturing Christianity and support the work that Cameron is doing there. Hope you enjoy this.
Marius5 says, doing my best to support your ministry. My question is, how well do you both think the Kalaam argument fares today against criticism? Very good question. So for those of you that don't know, the Kalaam, what he's referring to is an argument for God's existence that basically it falls under the category of a cosmological argument, which basically looks at some sort of like broad feature of the universe. So for example, in this case, we're thinking about the beginning of the universe. And the Kalam is primarily focused on whether or not the universe had a beginning and whether or not that provides evidence for the existence of God. There's different ways to cash that out. Some versions of the Kalam don't necessarily have as a premise that the universe began to exist. Instead, it'll say there is a first cause, and then it'll argue that first cause has to be God. That's actually the version that I like the best. But some recent work that was done on the Kalam stems from a guy named Alexander Pruss. Another guy working on it is Rob Coons, and they've developed these series of arguments that were originally sort of coined. The term was a Grim Reaper paradox. So basically, there's these paradoxes that seem to imply that, at least when it comes to causes, you can't have an infinite series of causes in any causal history. So like if you think about all the different causes that have happened in our universe, say, if you go backwards in time, that backwards timeline can't go on forever when it comes to at least the number of causes that there are when you look into the backward history of the universe. And what he argues in his work, based on this sort of paradox, is that there's basically got to be a first cause. You can't have, so it's called causal finitism. So there's a finite number of total causes that can exist. And so it's some of the latest work on it, and there are some objections right now that are kind of being floated, but it's the dialectic on this is a little bit new, so the literature is still sort of being developed. But overall, to kind of answer the question, go back to it, I think that in general, I think the Kalam is a good argument. I think that there are good arguments in defense of the Kalam. There's different ways to formulate the Kalam so that you can avoid certain criticisms that are leveled against the Kalam. So overall, I think it's a good, decent argument for the existence of God. I think Jimmy actually has some dissenting thoughts on this, but Jimmy, I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I think we may have somewhat of a different appraisal here, but that's what philosophers do. They look at the arguments and the evidence, and they see what seems most plausible to them. I do use the Kalaam argument, but I think that it has to be handled in a careful way. The formulation of it that I like is kind of the classical recent one of everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause, which would be God. And I think all those premises are true. I think that it's a logically valid argument, and I think the premises are true. So I think it's a sound argument. My question, though, is how best to defend the key premises, and especially the premise that the universe has a beginning. Now, we have some good scientific evidence for that, but the findings of science are always provisional, so they don't lead to ontological certainty. But they do allow one to have provisional confidence. And so I don't have a problem with scientific arguments for the universe having a finite history. Where my criticism would be of some of the work that's been done in this area is I have yet to find a philosophical defense of that premise that I consider to be successful. I tend to agree with St. Thomas Aquinas, and I want to who disagreed with this. By the way, there's been a division of opinion. Like St. Bonaventure thought that the Kalam worked. St. Thomas Aquinas thought it didn't work. And so there's been a split on this historically. On this issue, even though I'm not a Thomist, I tend to think Aquinas was right. And being a believer in God's omnipotence, I always want to say, well, God can do something. unless I can show a logical contradiction in it. So God can realize any state of affairs except ones that involve logical contradictions, like four-sided triangles or circles that have square perimeters. Those are just contradictions. They're logical nonsense. And so God can't actualize those, but he could actualize anything else. And I have yet to find, and I know about like the Grim Reaper paradoxes and stuff, I have yet to find a line of argumentation that I think shows that the idea of an infinite history involves a contradiction. And therefore, I think God could actualize one if he had chosen. So I tend to position the Kalaam argument more along provisional scientific lines than philosophical lines, but I think it can be used. I think the premises are true and the argumental form is valid, and so the argument is fundamentally sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think over time, I would probably say that there are stronger pieces of evidence for the existence of God, apart from the universe or I guess reality or existence having some sort of first cause or needing a first cause. Because you've got to connect that first cause. If you can argue that there is a first cause, you've got to connect that to God in some way. Because some atheists will even accept that there's a first cause, but then argue that it's natural or not personal or something along those lines. And so you've still got work to do, even if you can establish that. But I think there are other things like fine-tuning, psychophysical harmony, because if that's the first time you're ever hearing that, go look that up. Go look up psychophysical harmony on YouTube right now. Go watch an interview about that argument. Super interesting.
They're a great dance band. Psychophysical harmony, they are awesome.
No, it literally is like maybe the most powerful argument ever developed for the existence of God. You guys got to go check that out. So I think that there are stronger pieces of evidence for God that we could appeal to. But yeah, let's leave it at that.
And before we go, just a reminder to do all those great YouTube things. You can help my channel grow by liking, commenting, and sharing the video. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you always get notified when I have a new video. These days, I have multiple videos coming out every week. Thanks so much, and God bless you.